Hello guys, TV here, coming at you with a guide towards gearing and crafting for lightning trappers. Well, to start things out, I've just assembled all the endgame items you're gonna be looking for. When you start out, you obviously are not starting with these items, it's items you work towards. You're gonna be upgrading or you're gonna be leveling mostly as a life build around the time you reach maps, maybe sooner depending on how comfortable you are. You can switch to energy shield and go CI, especially in a league start scenario. I would go from life to chaos inoculation. Chaos inoculation being here in the skill tree. That way you can just use a lot of cheap energy shield items in the beginning of a league and still clear early maps, yellow maps, even the beginning of red maps you can clear as CI. By the time you get further along and you want to start crafting gear, most of your gear can be crafted with simply dense fossils and a single resonator. It is really that simple, yes. And it's actually quite cheap, because dense fossils are a very commonly found fossil in delving. So pretty much every league so far they come down to about 1 to 2 chaos per dense fossil. You're gonna be dense crafting your boots. You're gonna be dense crafting your gloves. You're gonna be dense crafting your shield. You're gonna be dense crafting your rings. So all these items are just dense fossils. You can add another fossil. You can add, depending if you have a lot of currency and want to speed up the process or have a little more luck, you can add shuddering fossils for the boots and for the gloves. But honestly, for the boots I wouldn't bother doing it, because mostly with the boots I would aim to get the Iceling move speed on boots, because she can provide you some extra bonuses, like she can give you 30% plus 12% extra, so 42%, or she can give you 30% plus immunity to chill, also really nice. So really for boots I wouldn't even bother with shuddering. For gloves you want throwing speed. And so for gloves, if you can afford it, you can definitely use shuddering fossils combined with dense fossils to have a better chance of hitting speed modifiers. But again, majority of the time I'm just crafting them with dense fossils only, because they're so cheap. They're so cheap that I really don't find the value in using shuddering as well. Now the rest of your items, the belt you want to craft with essences of seal. It's because it provides trap throwing speed, and it's not just trap throwing speed, it's a unique trap throwing speed that you can combine with trap throwing speed from your benchcraft. So you can literally get 21% from the essence, and you can get 12% from the benchcraft, and combine them on one belt for 33%. It's pretty crazy, very crazy. I think I have it on this build, yeah. I didn't hit 21, but I have 17% plus 12%, so just as an example. Again, in a league start scenario, or when you start to craft in a sort of early league, when you get to red maps and you maybe want to start thinking about creating an end game build, depending on how fast you are. You don't have to start out straight up using the most expensive ones. You can go down to like Screaming Essence or Shrieking. It's still a really good amount of throwing speed, and they're often like way cheaper than Deafening. Sometimes it's even better buying like 3 of these and upgrading them to one of these than buying one of these, because like maybe you'll pay 5 or 6 chaos for Deafening, maybe you'll pay 4 chaos for Shrieking, but you're only paying 1 chaos for Screaming. So that means you can get Shrieking for 3 cares instead of 4 cares if you buy 3 Screaming and just upgrade them. For your helmet, it pretty much goes on farm very fast in a league, meaning a lot of players are killing Awakener very early in leagues, so the price comes down super fast. Normally, by the time most players reach red maps and are getting to a point where they feel they want the extra damage from something like a Crown of the Inward Eye, they can get this crown with the enchant on it for something like 1 to 2x. In the meantime, you would just be using any rare helmet with energy shield on it. And if you can get the lab enchant cheap, you would get it, because piercing is just amazingly good. It's really good. If you can't get anything with the lab enchant on it cheap, you will use the jewel. I don't think I have an example right here anywhere, at least not one I can locate. But it's like it's a pierce jewel you get from Act 5 from a quest. You'll just pop that in your skill tree so that you have at least one +1 to pierce. You can also use, before you start using your amulet, you can use talismans that have +2 projectile pierce. There, you can buy them very cheap with a little bit of ES, some resist, and +2 projectile pierce. That'll cover you until you get your lab enchant. For the amulet, usually in a league start scenario, it's cheaper buying the blessing by itself and buying the amulet by itself. The amulet is usually just 1 or 2 cares, it's very common, and often you can save a bit of currency by doing it like that, upgrading it yourself. As for the armor, now normally in a league start scenario, again, you go from life to chaos inoculation, so you just get any armor you can get with links on it and with some energy shield on it in the beginning of a league. Later on, when you're ready to go low life and when you have saved up a bit of currency, consider buying the offering cards instead of buying the armor directly, because often the offering cards are way cheaper, or you save like 20% of the currency that you would have paid if you bought the armor straight up. So instead, buying 8 cards, you can even like put up a trade, a life surge trade, and snipe these cards cheap while you're still leveling or while you're still progressing as CI. So that's a good tip for that, getting the armor that way. Weapons, I don't recommend crafting the weapon, I recommend buying it, because literally we get the weapons way cheaper than any realistic investment you would use to craft them. In a fresh league, you can also easily craft several of the items just using alteration orbs. Especially something like a shield early on is great crafting with alteration orbs. You just scour, start the transmutation, and you're looking for a high ES hit. Let's see if I can hit one here. That's not a high one, it's like tier 4. 94%. Tier 2. But chaos resist. Don't really care for that. 98, but block recovery. Anyways, you're just basically looking for high ES rolls on it while using alterations, and then you're gonna regal it, and potentially you'll get lucky and get your recovery, or you'll get a secondary ES stat. Preferably you're looking for getting ES recovery, the 5% part, or 3 to 5% part. You're looking to get that and 1 ES stat while you're alteration crafting and going for the regal, because then you'll just go to the bench and you'll craft the other missing ES part. Let me make it rare. Then you'll just craft the other missing ES part. So now you have a 300 ES shield, which would have, if I had hit obviously, had recovery on it. That's also a method of just crafting early game. Or early league, I should say. In a league start scenario, you're obviously not going to be able to afford a titanium spirit shield right off the bat. At least most players are not going to be able to afford it right off the bat. So consider just starting with one of the lower bases, Harmonic being the second best and Vile Spirit Shield being the third best. You can just start out using a Vile Spirit Shield or Harmonic, and it doesn't have to be item level 86 either. You can start as low as 78 is the lowest I would go. If you can get it as eye level 84, but otherwise 78 and up. And since dense fossils are relatively cheap even in a league start, there's really nothing stopping you from spamming, like investing 50 cares into dense fossils, maybe even 70 cares or something into dense fossils and making your shield, your starter shield, something like this. It's not hard to hit it, especially not if you're using Shaper Shield. I recommend Shaper Shield, even though Crusader can also hit recovery when you block, but Crusader has a lower weighting on the recovery chance. So definitely Shaper Shield is better to use. You'll hit it more often, so better chances of getting good ES with the recovery. Secondly, later on when you're ready to craft your real endgame shield, a titanium base, item level 86 shield, if you hit really good ES, like this is an example, this has double T1 ES on it. T1 ES. So if you hit double good ES, but you don't have the recovery mod, you can pay 2 Exile orbs to get the recovery mod on this item. Like to force it where it's 100% chance you're getting it. So in this case we only have 2 prefixes and 1 suffix. So in order to do this trick you have to fill out your prefixes. What I would do in this case is I would put a random craft from the bench as a suffix, just to make sure that I always have 1 suffix open for later. So I'll just put like any suffix on it, any cheap one, doesn't matter. There, 16 fire resist. So now we have 2 prefixes, 2 suffixes. So then you would either Leo slam it in research of the syndicate if you want the free exile slams, or you can go to your beast crafting or buy the beast for it. They're quite cheap, even in the league start scenario. They're relatively cheap. There's beasts that lets you add a random mod to a shaper item. So I would just hope it adds a prefix. If it adds a suffix, I have to do it again to fill out the missing prefix. See, shaper, add a mod to a shaper item. So let's try it for the video, why not? Just realized I don't have my my life reserved, but never mind. Anyway, what did we get? +1 to number of summon totems. Not anything useful for us, but it's a prefix, so it's what we wanted anyway. Now we have 3 prefixes, now we can force the recovery mod on it. If we had gotten a suffix, we would have had 3 suffixes now, including the craft, so we would have just rolled the same recipe again, the shaper recipe, to force the prefix. But this is okay. We have the 3 prefixes. We will go to our crafting bench, or in a league start scenario you'll contact wherever is a known crafter on your server, or go through the forums to find the crafter that already has unlocked prefixes cannot be changed. it's gonna cost you 2 Exiles to do this, to force recovery on the shield, so it's still very cheap. I mean, you're getting a really good shield for 2x. So, boom, we put that on it. And now the only problem is I'm not sure if I have... I should have planned that better. I actually don't have one of the thingies from Harvest that I need, but it's a super common recipe from Harvest. It's called Reforge a rare item with at least 1 defense modifier. It's super common, you find them all the time. Like almost pretty much every harvest you open, you're gonna find one of those recipes. And you just put that on the shield and you're guaranteed getting the recovery suffix. This recovery suffix, recover energy shield when you block, you're guaranteed of getting it. And you will not lose your ES because of the prefixes cannot be changed. Mastercraft. So that's a way of building your endgame shield. Yeah, that's it. Again, rings, you're just spamming dense fossils on Crusader base rings. Really simple. Boots, again, spamming dense fossils, probably using Iceling to get movement speed if you don't hit movement speed. Gloves, spamming dense fossils. And you're hoping to get trap throwing speed with the advanced trap. It's a combined mod. So you see it's one it's 2 lines, but it's 1 mod. Belt, again, Essences of Seal. Some people like to start on a normal belt, one that isn't Crusader influenced, and then they start spamming dense fossils until they hit ES on it, and then they use a Crusader, hoping to get the ES prefix. Personally, I don't like that method because there are a lot of other Crusader mods that are great for us. It's not only the ES percentages that is good for us, we can also get stuff like 35% extra spell damage during any flask effect. We can get extra lightning damage. There are other mods that are great, which you obviously can't hit if you're rolling on a belt that isn't Crusader influenced. So personally, I prefer rolling the seals on an already Crusader influenced belt. Oh yeah, another thing about the helmet, for late game when you don't know what to throw currency at, you can always Valor helmets like these, and you can hope to get +2 for either curse gems or for for aura gems, or +2 for lightning will work as well for our wrath gem and our skitterbuds as well. So you would put your aura setup in the helmet then to get +2 extra on those. 5% increased max life and nothing. Sorcerer gloves, obviously the best base is fingerless silk, but they're very expensive, especially in a league start scenario. So in a league start you would just use sorcerer gloves. I don't know why I have a pair of conjurer gloves as an example. That's wrong. You want sorcerer gloves as your base. Usually you can get those quite cheap, and item level 84 is what you want. But again, in a league start scenario, you probably have to lower your standard a little. Maybe you'll just go for item level 78 plus as a shaper item. They'll become available very early. And again, since dense fossils are not that expensive, you can still throw some away to get some good ES rolling. Starter rings in a league start, you can easily get 1 KS rings that has 45 ES on them. You can even get them with intelligence on, and people are underestimating how much intelligence does for us. like every league, the first rings I buy, they have 40 plus energy shield and 40 plus intelligence. Because like, well, every 5 intellect we get, we gain 1% ES. If you have a ring with 40 ES and 50 intelligence, you actually have a ring with 40 ES and 10% ES. So it's really good and it's super cheap. Oh, you can get those rings even in an early league for 1 to 3 KS each. Later on, obviously, you'll want to craft rings with Crusader influence, because that way you can get higher ES hits. Like these here, you can get 18% max ES. Before you craft the rings, you would scour them and you would add defense defense catalysts to them, like these tempering catalysts. So you scour them so they're white, that way you only have to use 4 catalysts instead of using 20. There, 4 catalysts gives us 20%. And then you just start den spamming them. So I think that about covers it for how we craft our gear and how we league start, what we focus on. If you have any questions, type them in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video and consider giving it a sub. Maybe we'll someday hit that elusive 1,000 YouTube subscriber number. Thanks guys for watching. I'll see you next time for the next guide. Bye. The reason I have a headhunter belt lying around here is not just to, hey, look at my headhunter. It's because I wanted to remind people that headhunter actually works for trappers. No one really seems to know this, because normally it wouldn't work, since it's an item that grants you stuff based on you killing things, and you are not killing anything as a trapper, your traps are killing. So that's why normally on-kill effects don't work for us at all. But Headhunter is an exception to that rule. They purposely made that an exception, so that even as a trapper you're super excited if you get a Headhunter belt. Just wanted to add that in there as an extra piece of information.